Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Welcome to 365 Deep Dive. He's John Moore. I'm Andy Honeycutt, and today we are really excited to bring you a session that is not Microsoft Copilot. We are going to be discussing the undisputed Clipchamp. And not only are we going to be deep diving into Clipchamp and all of the amazing video capabilities, we have an amazing special guest with us. He originally hails from France. He now calls the Bay Area home. He's a product manager at Microsoft for Clipchamp. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Ludo Ulrich. Ludo, we are so excited to have you here today.
What an intro, Andy. Looks like really a boxing tournament, something like that, right? I have to say, you don't disappoint. I'm excited to be here.
We like
Yeah,
to
Andy came up.
here.
Yeah, Andy came up with the theme this time, and we were playing around with AI image generators to make the thumbnail, and we were like, let's do like a early '90s boxing video game theme. So we're leaning into it this time. But it's great to see you again, Ludo. Thanks for joining us today. Do you want to start out with a little bit about kind of your journey with Clipchamp, how you've come to be at Microsoft? It sounds like you're a boomerang to Microsoft, actually, right?
I'm a boomerang. Indeed, that's the term that we use for folks who, couldn't live without Microsoft and come back. In fact, I came back through the acquisition of Clipchamp. So, this is an Australian acquisition. So, to your point, hopefully we have some early birds who are looking at us, watching us from Australia and New Zealand early on Saturday. And maybe some of my teammates. Yes, indeed. I was actually part of the Clipchamp team, joined the team during COVID, thinking that video might have an opportunity, right? You would think that people were spending their days in Teams and Zoom and everything, and there was a need essentially to manage those videos, right? And managing video has always been difficult. You always have some very complex tools, or some very purpose specific to a purpose kind of tools. So I felt like when I got to connect with the Clipchamp team in Australia, to be specific, in Brisbane, in Queensland, for those of you who have been there, it's a fantastic part of Australia. And yeah, I connected with the team through a former colleague of mine, Benjamin. I say hello, who was basically the first employee of Clipchamp in the US. And one conversation led to another. I ended up meeting the founding team remotely, obviously, and got hired fully remotely, indeed, based in the Bay Area. And the idea was to start to represent this company in the US and connect it in the largest ecosystem, right? So we started with like a great conversation with all the storage providers, just to make sure we had all those opportunities to import assets directly into the tool, using them as distribution channels, right? And then we started to have like a much closer relationship with the big platform players. And obviously Microsoft was one of them, but we would also have deep relationship with Google and, for the Chromebook users, and Clipchamp being a web app, it was essentially a perfect fit for those different platforms, right? The reality is all those players needed to have movie equivalent that's kind of good at everything, right? To help the general users to edit their videos, but also to create their videos and create some cool videos, hopefully with templates. And that's what's one of the ad is that very kind of template-based approach. And so again, one thing led to another. We had a great conversation, great engagement with the Microsoft team. Obviously myself, my colleague was also a former Microsoft employee. So I guess we knew how to walk the walk with the Microsoft team. We had a product vision of what we could accomplish, from building a Windows application to integrating deeply with OneDrive. And of course, a vision to integrate in Microsoft 365 and get to an enterprise version of Clipchamp over time. But clearly, to be honest, that would have been very hard to accomplish anything like that as a partner, right? So I think, the best way to describe what happened is one of those situations where Microsoft was in a situation where they need to figure out buy or partner. And, a 60, 70 people company out of Australia, are you going to partner with a company of this size? Yeah, to some extent. And in fact, we had a lot of work stream by Microsoft in their campaign, on store, and so on and so forth, but there was a limit to it. So, someone from the first meeting to 9 months later, we ended up, accepting an acquisition. And of course, Alex, my CEO, and the rest of the founding team had to make that decision, which is always kind of an interesting inflection point in the company, right? But I think the general consensus is that it would be a great way for us to join the Microsoft division, which was really to democratize video creation and video editing. And when you think about it, being part of a platform like Windows was just, a shortcut to get there, right? Let's put it this way. So we joined Microsoft in the acquisition was announced in September 2021. Here, but that's kind of a fast forward of a journey and how I came back as a boomerang through an Australian company, which is ironic, at Microsoft.
Nice. Yeah. So we've been interacting with the Clipchamp team as MVPs for probably 2, maybe 3 years at this point. So myself, Andy, Ludo, we've interacted and gotten to know each other through like MVP product interactions, things like that. And it's been a really fun journey to watch, like, before the pandemic, even democratizing video and having an enterprise grade platform for expressing yourself with video has been a passion of mine since, the mid 2010s. And it's been really good and hopeful to watch Clipchamp come into that fold, right? It's part of the Windows 11 experience natively now. We got to watch that come out. We've seen now the integration with the M365 platform. So it's not a separate thing with a separate account system. As of recently, as late as, the end of 2023, you guys maybe started seeing it roll out in your Microsoft 365 tenants. And now, it's fully integrated in with the files in your enterprise OneDrive. It's part now of editing files in place in Microsoft Stream. It's right there as, native experience as part of the enterprise video story. So I think it's the perfect time to talk about it because a lot of those enterprise integrations are now in place so people can use Clipchamp in the flow of their work, right? So I think it's going to be a really exciting topic today. And we have a lot of folks in our audience who are very into video creation and live streaming. I saw Michael from Germany. He's joining us from Berlin. He's a big video creator in the MVP community as well. Looks like Ben's joining us pretty early for you, I bet. And it's going to be a good time. So I think, Andy, we wanted to start out with that. What is Clipchamp? We kind of, touched on that a little bit in the consumer space. I think, Ludo, would it be safe to say that, it was really big before in the pre-acquisition realm? Clipchamp was more like in the consumer space, maybe in places like education because of it, being like a web first type of experience. You can use it, your kids on their Chromebooks, things like that. Is that kind of where it started and then has kind of pivoted into the business world?
That's where we were strong indeed at the time of the acquisition. But to go even a bit before that, essentially the company, as always, those startup stories are always a long journey. But Clipchamp started with some sort of technology for distributed computing. That was the idea of the founders. When your computer is idle, you had a few of those companies trying to do that, right? Trying to use the power, the CPU of your computers to process things, right? But that technology ended up being reusable and turned into more of an API. So not for the consumer and education at first. It was more of a B2B tool to do encoding, compression, things like that as an API for different players out there who would use that, right? And then the founders decided to turn that into actually a standalone product, a web product. I saw somebody mentioning Windows Movie Maker. It was kind of, making the assumption that something could be done better, right? And having a web modern version using the latest technologies like WebAssembly, things like that, could be something that would be relevant, right? And so that's how it turned into basically Clipchamp, which at the beginning was called Clipchamp Create. That was the name of the product. That gives you the DNA. It was really a creation tool. Yes, of course you can edit. You have a timeline. You have a bunch of features, but it's really a way to express yourself and to create something. And so I think now at this point, you're right, John. It became very popular in the consumer space. In fact, one of the key reason why Microsoft really loved Clipchamp is we had extremely good SEO. If you look at a video editor for Windows or video editor in your browser, you're going to end up falling into Clipchamp because we had some raving reviews, and you know how SEO works, right? We ended up being part of a lot of tutorials on how to create a video and became de facto one of, if not the leader of the multi-purpose, universal kind of easy to use video editor. And so yes, you're right. The audience was a lot of students, a lot of teachers, a lot of non-professional YouTubers who need like an easy tool, change the aspect ratio, things like that. And also, and that's at the time where I joined Clipchamp, we started to have also success from the SMB standpoint, with a lot of small business just trying to create videos for their business. And little by little, we had a lot of, shadow IT kind of situation where some users would just discover the tool maybe on their personal time and try to make some corporate videos with it. So that's kind of the journey. Obviously, that's where we knew we would hit a wall at some point, right? Because without the credentials, the compliance, and essentially everything that Microsoft stands for and being part of it, it was kind of an uphill battle for us to actually go in the enterprise. We managed to get pilots and a few deployments, but and now we're kind of ready for prime time as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're going to dive in just a second to what Clipchamp actually is. And we're going to put fingers to the keyboard and we're going to explore it. But I just want to reiterate, there's 3 key points. And you guys really took the words out of my mouth as you were going through this. 1, it democratizes video creation for just about anybody. It makes it really simple for somebody to edit a video and get a really polished result without having to go through a whole lot of like skill and development. But if you have those skills, it makes it easier for you to put out a really polished product and do a really cool video really, really quickly. So the democratization of it is really cool. Another key point or another key takeaway that I've seen is the flow of work. Because if I'm in an enterprise environment and I've got to edit a Teams meeting recording or I've got to capture something to put out like a training video, I can stay basically in the Microsoft suite in my web browser and like work from there. So I don't have to worry about, well, we record here, download over there, do this, and then re-upload. Like I can minimize a lot of that, that process. And Ludo, one thing you said really hits home for me. The ability to work in the web with this, but also to be able to call the local resources, like you've really hit that sweet spot of the promise of progressive web apps. And I think we're going to be able to see and explore that today. And I'm really excited with that. So why don't we go ahead and dive in to what is Clipchamp and do kind of like an overview of the actual application itself. And then we're going to step through the high level some of the Clipchamp personal and enterprise. We're going to focus more on enterprise as we move forward throughout this conversation. But we're going to start off with what is Clipchamp and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, that sounds good. So if you want to bring up slides, you totally can, Ludo. I just opened up the Clipchamp website to kind of show the back of the box, right? So if viewers aren't familiar with Clipchamp yet, you can learn a lot just from clipchamp.com. In the typical fashion of seeing like what the capabilities are and landing on, a little bit about what the difference is between like the consumer version, the business version, and then sliding into what it looks like from the Microsoft 365. So that's typically where I start, is just on the website for whatever, thing that we're checking out today. And we can learn a little bit more about, the pricing. And there's like a for home version of Clipchamp, which is the consumer version. There's also, we can take a look at the for work version, which is part of your M365 enterprise or business licensing as well. So how would you guys like to start? Should we show how to get to Clipchamp first? Some of those, like if you're looking at it in your work environment, how to make sure that you are enabled for Clipchamp, where to find the application to actually get into it?
Yeah,
I think that's like maybe a good
we can
spot.
do that. Maybe if you don't mind, I like always to start with a video since we're talking about video, right? So maybe
Yeah.
you can put forward my screen and hopefully the video will show you just to get a little bit of the vibe of what Clipchamp. In this case, that's more the consumer version of Clipchamp, how it looks like, right? So
Yeah.
can you put my screen forward, maybe?
Yeah, there it is. There we go.
Okay, let's try to play this video, and then hopefully the sound will work.
Video is an essential business communication tool. Whether it's internal communications or external communications, connecting with people through video has never been more important. But how do you produce high-quality videos quickly and cost-effectively, especially if you're not an expert? Introducing Microsoft Clipchamp. Whether you're new to video or an expert, Clipchamp enables you to create professional-looking videos for an impactful viewer experience. Clipchamp gives you all the editing tools you need to achieve your video creation goals. Intuitive, user-friendly features like the timeline editor, trimming, webcam and screen recorder, video resizer, transitions, and text enable you to immediately start creating videos. And because Clipchamp is built on OneDrive and SharePoint technology, your data is secure and integrated with Microsoft 365. Plus, it's easy to share your videos safely on Microsoft Stream. Enhance your work. Elevate your brand. Upgrade your communications. No experience required. Clipchamp.
All right. So it's a good program for the rest, right? This video, and apologies, that's actually the more of the enterprise video that I played here, which is even better. But that gives you a good overview of what the product is. And so maybe I think I like what you recommend is like, where do you find it? Where do you start as a user? So and essentially, frankly, I'm just gonna back up a little bit if you don't mind. Video has a lot of manifestation into the Microsoft stack. For those of you who use a Microsoft 365, I'm sure many of you are also admin on Microsoft 365. You'll realize that Microsoft has many, video manifestation in their product, as I said, right? I mean, in Teams, in PowerPoints, in Loop, in Stream, obviously, which is our consumption products, right? So what we want is make sure that there's a consistent experience, and that's kind of the purpose of the team we belong to, is make sure we have this consistency, and wherever you are in the context, you can open the right tool. Sometime it might be Clipchamp, sometime it might be just you just need to record something in Stream or in Teams. You don't need to open Clipchamp, right? So there is this kind of a overall vision that we're trying to build. And we want to make, I think, Andy, you mentioned democratization. I think the word will come up a few times. We don't optimize for the advanced users. Of course, you'll miss a few functionalities if you do video as a job, or if you do like 20 videos a week, and that's really something you might need some more advanced tools. But we want to make it an everyday habit, right? Making sure that you don't like fear the idea of like creating a video. Oh, it's going to take me like 2 hours to create that project. No, it should be quick. It should be something that's kind of everyday. And in fact, just to prove that, just in terms of numbers, this is the type of scale we accomplish with Clipchamp. Of course, it includes the consumer, right? But as you can imagine, those numbers will be impacted by the availability of Clipchamp in the enterprise. We think we can double that very quickly, right, with the distribution that we have. So the first thing we did as we joined Microsoft was to redesign the logo. So that was the easy part. To be consistent with the look and feel of the rest of the Microsoft 365 suite, if you will. But what that means is that we reach a level of availability, accessibility, the fact that we were in multiple languages and so on and so forth. So which basically got us to the point where we became the pre-installed video editor for Windows. So once again, the modern web version of Windows Movie Maker. And so that's the first point of entry. If you're a consumer out there, you have Windows 11, you'll find Clipchamp pre-installed. That's going to be your by default video editor. In fact, and that's what I show on the screen, if you do a right click on an MP4, the universal video format, obviously, you'll get an option to edit in Clipchamp directly, right? So that's the first thing we did. You can, of course, find the Clipchamp app, the PWA app, for Windows 10 users in the App Store. And needless to say, it works extremely well on a Mac, extremely well on a Chromebook, because it's a web app. So just go on clipchamp.com and you'll find the free version of Clipchamp. The other way to get it is to, if you have a Microsoft 365 Personal and Family Edition. In fact, it's been available part of this package for a year now. So you see the little logo, and of course, there's always a little bit of pride when we see the purple logo. And I agree with somebody in the chat, the purple and the look and feel of Clipchamp goes very well with the Restream interface. Yeah. So yes, so we're part of the Microsoft 365 Family and Personal Edition, which is great because again, it made it really broadly available. And then what we just announced at Ignite, and I think we're going to dig deeper into that, so we'll pause after that, is we're part of Microsoft 365 E3 and E5. We have the standard version of Clipchamp finally available. It took us a little bit of time because you saw in the video, we had to integrate with OneDrive and SharePoint from a storage standpoint, which allows us to overnight be, for most IT team, kind of an approved tool, right? Because all the rules that essentially follow all the rules from a storage standpoint as OneDrive and SharePoint. So that's what we announced at Ignite. And so now, if you click on the waffle on the top left corner of your Microsoft 365 interface, you'll see Clipchamp appear in your tenant. And of course, we have multiple point of entries that I think we could show more visually in a minute.
Yeah, definitely. So let me steal the screen real quick to kind of do a demo for the admins who are watching and you're looking to roll out Clipchamp, get started with Clipchamp. Getting it available to users is almost one of the easiest things you'll do as an E5 administrator or an E3 administrator. So if you have Microsoft 365 as a tenant in the commercial world, it's as simple as putting it in the hands by licensing your users. So I've got Megan Bowen here in the admin center. You'll see now that when you open up her, licenses and applications, she's got an E5 account. Under applications, these 71 apps, if we scroll down to the M's, you'll see now Microsoft Clipchamp is available right there. And then for your users, if they ever need to double check if they should see Clipchamp in their environment, a tip that we found as we were going through like rolling out in my own organization is you as a user, you can always go up to your user account and we'll click account right here. And then under your subscriptions along the side, you'll see now under your Microsoft 365 entitlements, you have Microsoft Clipchamp. So if you see that in your list, then it's just as easy as Ludo said, it's available in the waffle. So the waffle, we call this upper area of office.com. It's available in this list right here. If you don't see it in your most recent applications, you can always explore all of the applications. And then whenever we open up everything that is presented to us in M365, Clipchamp is right here. These are in alphabetical order. So we click on that, and now we're at the landing page to be able to create a new project with Clipchamp. So once you open it, now it's going to be a recent application, and it will show up in your waffle right there. But yeah, you may need to go the first time to your all applications. You'll find Clipchamp right there, and then you can simply click a blank video, and it will open up a brand new project file automatically saved to your OneDrive. So Ludo, I've noticed when you open up the video project for the first time, in your OneDrive, you're going to see a new location get created called Clipchamp, and that's where we're going to be storing the video projects, which essentially are just a folder, right, of all the assets, the recordings, everything that's associated with that project. Is that right?
It is absolutely right. In fact, one of the cool things you might have noticed as well, John, is we created a new file extension as well, .clipchamp. For the metadata associated to that project. It's usually a small file, right? It's, as I said, a few metadata of what's on the timeline and so on and so forth. And that's what, essentially you can share, and that's what creates exactly. You see that here. And it creates those two folders. You said that one with the assets, one with the different version of the exports. Assuming, imagine you're doing a social media post and you need to export different aspect ratio. You can name them accordingly and save them in the same folder. Which makes me also say that a lot of users are asking questions about collaborations. We don't have like powerful, advanced workflow yet as part of Clipchamp, but honestly, when you share that folder, you can share that with other users, and suddenly you can collaborate on it, right? So it's kind of the vision of our team, which was like video as a document. You probably heard that before, right? How can we handle a video file as simply as a Word document or an Excel document? And so that trying to make it as simple as that.
Yeah, there's kind of three ways that I get into Clipchamp personally. The first is what we showed right there. We can always select the application. We can create a new project and go from there. The second way that I go into Clipchamp is from OneDrive. From that create menu, whenever you're adding a new Word document, Excel, PowerPoint, something like that, Clipchamp is now listed under that new file video. So you can click on that and that will start a new project as well. The third way that I've personally gotten into Clipchamp is from Microsoft Stream. So if you're looking at a Microsoft Stream, maybe it's a recording of a Teams meeting, right? So here's like a video that I recorded with Microsoft Stream or from Microsoft Teams. I want to edit this to add a bunch of text, stuff like that. The third entry point for me is this Clipchamp button right here at the top. If we click on that, that will also create a copy of that video as a Clipchamp project, and then you can start editing without having to download the video, re-import it, do all of this type of stuff. You just do it directly from the M365 interface. So those are kind of the ways that I get into it personally. I'm wondering to show, just to start, maybe we start with a blank video project and then import some media into it, and we can start, showing how we can organize our media, maybe create a recording of a clip like we're doing a voiceover, something like that, add some annotations. You guys think that would be a good spot to kind of go from?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we're trying to ideate, since we have a lot of people who are, I know, eager to help us with, influencing the roadmap and giving us ideas, it's actually the step before that. Clipchamp doesn't do anything there. You might create a loop document and start having a flow and try to imagine what could be the start. But today, you start from a blank page. Actually, that's what just Mark said.
Yeah.
It's the best template for some people. It could be also daunting from others. Yeah. On our consumer version of the product, we have plenty of templates, TikTok templates, Instagram templates, birthday templates. If you're a gamer, we have a lot of those. So that's a notion that we want to introduce in the enterprise product as well, is have the ability for you, for instance, John, you would be able at your organization to create a few templates that people start from. But today, yes, you start from a blank template. What I recommend to users is, create a folder in their SharePoint where they put all the assets that they're going to use on a regular basis, intro videos or clips that, might be. So maybe that's you have some of those clips, John, that you can import.
I did, yeah. To start this out, actually, I did kind of do a little bit of prep work to say, all right, what if I'm creating a video about how to create an image in Bing Chat, right? I want to create an image using AI generation. So I fire up my camera, I fire up my favorite screen recorder, and I record the steps for how to do it, and I record on my camera. So I've got those two video assets in a folder right here. And from there, I can, in my video project, let's say that this is, we're going to name it how to generate images with Bing Chat, right? So that's the name of my video. I've just renamed that project. And then we can go to import media, and we could either import it from our computer, right? I could go from my desktop and I could upload the videos. I've already got them in my OneDrive, so we don't have to watch me upload videos. So if you click the drop down right here, you can select from your OneDrive, from the M365 ecosystem. So now I'm navigating through my own OneDrive. My video's already in the cloud. We've got those recordings that I threw into that space. I can select one or multiple videos, click select, and then now you're going to see that it's attached them to the project, and it's processing them so I can add them to my timeline and start cutting and cropping and adding effects.
2 comments, John, as you are preparing those files. So first of all, I love the fact that you called it an how-to video, because literally with our product team, a few weeks ago, we're trying to nail down the personas that we think are the best fit for us, right? For the product today in the enterprise space, in the corporate space, and really how to heroes. That's the name we gave them, the internal name, not to too many secrets. It's kind of straightforward. Like, we want to really to nail that scenario, right? The how to. So it's really you nail it. And then the second comment, those files are being prepared. So we prepare them to be used in the browser, and those files are probably pretty large. Which is a good example of the fact that the product is solid and can handle like large files. I wouldn't go for like a 2 hours 4K video. Maybe you'll push the limit a little bit, but it's not uploading the files to the cloud, right? It's really keep them local, right? And that's what made the product very unique, is that yes, you need to be connected to the internet. We're talking about a web app. You can't work offline in a plane with Clipchamp, but you don't need to upload your assets to the cloud, which would cut a lot of our users from using Clipchamp, right? So it's really just getting them ready for editing in your browser.
Yeah, Vlad has a really good question as well. That was like, hey, you've got the premium button up here. So while this is finishing processing, maybe we can talk about that equivalent of there's part of what's included in your M365 subscription. Yep. And then there's an increase above that you could choose to go premium. And I'll just bring it up on screen so we can kind of talk through what you get if you choose to go premium on top of what you get in M365.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you click on the button. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but there are a few features that we kept for our premium version. So it's similar in the consumer space. We have Clipchamp Standard, the one that comes free part of Windows and you can find anywhere online, etc. And we have a $12 version that comes with additional functionalities. So we want to mimic and have the same, essentially be symmetrical with the enterprise version, which is until the end of the Microsoft fiscal year. For those of you who are enterprise customers, $5 per month and per user. So it's way cheaper than the consumer version. So it's we try to make it as universal as possible. We didn't want to make it like premium in a way where it's only for like the 5 video editors in the company, right? We just try to put in that add-on some functionalities that go beyond the standard product. So 4K export is a very good example. We have use cases like, companies who need to do like high quality trailers, digital signage in their companies, or media companies, gaming companies who need 4K, things like that. We have some premium stock videos, audio, and just pictures, obviously. So we have a pretty extensive library out of the box in the standard version, but we really multiply more or less by 10, what you have in the premium version. And I go quick because I want to go back maybe to your flow, but essentially brand kit. And a lot going on when it comes to branding and templates in the roadmap. So that's another key components of it. And last but not least, some analytics, and we can maybe dig deeper into that. But essentially, we made it visible in the product so that you can request your license to your license admin, right? So we're working with a bunch of early adopters, customers, to figure out what would be the flow. But it's very similar to what you might recognize from the planner to project flow. For some of you who know that product. Planner is the free version, like Clipchamp Standard is the free version, and then Project is the more advanced version that you can upgrade to.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's a good rundown of like what you get when you're premium. I think for me, the obvious one is the brand kit capabilities of like, how much is it worth to the organization to have consistency, brand messaging, things like that. And then also, how much potentially are you paying, or would you already be paying for stock footage, stock video, music, things like that kind of, are that value add that you get with premium. So to back out of that, we've got our videos processed here. So I've got a new project, I've got some pre-recorded content, and now I can just add that to my timeline to begin editing, right? So is the simplest way or the recommended way to do what I do, which is just click to add it to the timeline, the big plus button. And typically what I do is tutorial videos are kind of the bread and butter for a lot of enterprise democratized video. So what I like to do is like, it's my face talking over the top of a screen recording. So you'll see that it added the timeline basically one after the other, but I want to stack those up, right? So I'm going to drag my screen recording underneath my face, right? And then now they're on top of each other, and you see that, you know, I hit stop recording at the same time, so they're the same size. But now I can blend these together by putting myself like picture in picture, something like that. So that's typically how I would start a layout, right? Which is just screen as the backdrop, putting my face on top of it, and then cutting out all of my mess ups, adding annotations, some things like that. One thing that I like about Clipchamp as well is the ability to crop the video out so that you can kind of squeeze yourself down into that picture in picture. There are, I found, you know, some picture in picture presets, if you will. So if you want to automatically align it to a corner, make it like kind of a pre-canned size, you can definitely do that. But if I've got like all of this extra space on either side of me, I can always hit the crop button right here. If we click that, I can kind of trim out my TV, trim out this blank space right here. And then now I'm able to put myself anywhere I want on my screen if I select it, and I can make myself a little bit bigger so you can see me better without having to look at like my wall next to me. So that's kind of the crop functionality, the ability to squeeze yourself down so that you're on top of your video, right? The other thing a lot of people might do is you see that I'm kind of looking off to the wrong side of my video frame. You can also choose to flip the video. So if I want to look like I'm looking at the background, I can click that, and now my view is kind of like my eyes are looking at the screen that I'm sharing. So those are kind of those basics of like what you would do, just throwing together a quick edit. I think beyond that, are there recommendations that you see, Ludo, that are kind of like, you know, they take their game up a notch and add a little bit more to their video?
No, I think you said it all. It's pretty straightforward. I think the analogy I use to illustrate what you just showed is PowerPoint, right? So if you are an IT leader who is thinking about deploying that broadly, right, because it's part of the package and enabling those users, just tell them it's as easy to use as PowerPoint, right? Technically, you know, because I know like video, so you're talking about picture in picture and all those acronyms that we can have, but it's literally you take video as a document. It's also, taking video flows or video streams, sorry, I should say, and use them as object in a PowerPoint presentation. You resize, you can have 3 videos, one overlapping the other. So, play with it. You'll see it's pretty straightforward. And I think I'm glad you showed actually the reverse. Actually, I don't use it. It's a good idea to point your face towards the inside of the screen. But there is a lot of work and minutia by our product team to get all those contextual menus, right? And maybe the last thing I would add to what you showed is that you can use a lot of shortcuts. In fact, the product is fully accessible with a lot of shortcuts. I will put the links in the chat in a minute. But feel free to use the copy and paste and things like that as you move things around. And you can also do multi-select. So as you edit and you do the what you just said, it's really one of the features that I found super useful that we didn't have actually a couple of years ago, right? It was really kind of a mouse-based tool. But now, for those of you who love the keyboard, you'll be happy with Clipchamp.
Yeah, and you'll see those in some of these contextual menus. You'll see the preview. One that a colleague of mine, Lee Reed at EY, he uses the split a whole lot. That's because you have your hand just right on your keyboard. The S button is probably the one you're going to use the most as you're going around. You're selecting somewhere in the timeline. Just click the S key, and now you've split that clip in half, so you can spread it out. You could do whatever you need to do. Again, you can use the Control Z or the Command Z if you're on a Mac to kind of undo whatever you did. So if I move this forward, I don't want to do that. Command Z, I've gone back, so you have an undo, a redo, a split button, all of these kind of typical clipping and undoing, copying things are along the top of your timeline right there. So that's kind of like laying out my screen. If I scroll forward a little bit, I really like your analogy to PowerPoint, right? Where it's like I'm looking at a slide and I want to like move myself. I'm just an object on my stage, right? So I can move myself to the corner. Maybe I want to annotate to say, click here, right? So I want to put like an arrow that says click here on this. With PowerPoint, you would add an arrow shape and you would add text. It's very similar whenever you're talking about Clipchamp and we're talking the video world. So you'll see along the side here, these are kind of the assets that you would be adding to your video. So if I want to say click here with a big arrow pointing to it, I can add some text. I can click on that to add it to my stage. Now I've got this text, so I can change that to say click here with an exclamation point. Maybe I want to change that text a little bit. So these are kind of your, how would you word it? These are like your adjustments over here on the side. So if you select text, now you can change your font, the style, the color, things like that. So if I want to make this like, pink or something, I could make it really kind of wild colors. I can make it stand out a little bit better on that background by saying click here. I can shrink it down, make it bigger. So I'm going to put click here so you can kind of read it. And then I'll go into probably the graphics where we've got shapes available. We've got all these different things. A lot of them say premium. They've got that little diamond icon, but there are some that are free. So if I search for like arrow, it's going to come up with a lot of arrow options for me. This one is actually free. So I can click on that, add it to my timeline. And then, well, if I drag it over here, so I've got, there we go. There's the click here with a giant arrow that shows on screen. And it's a lot like building out a slide deck, like you said. I want to take this arrow. Maybe I want to rotate it a little bit. I can do that if I want to, make it bigger, things like that. The difference is whenever you go into like PowerPoint versus video is with a video, you've got this timeline that you're running through. PowerPoint, it's like slide after slide after slide. So you want to think about like, transitioning and how you're going to have this come on screen, how you're going to exit out of the screen. And probably the easiest way to do that is if I zoom in on my timeline, you'll see down here, I've got the click here, I've got the arrow. If I want that to last longer on the screen, I can drag this out and now it's going to last from 6 minutes and 44 seconds to 7 minutes and 10 seconds. And then if I play that back, like let's hit play. I'm going to mute my audio so I don't hear myself. And you'll see that it just like popped on screen right there. If I want that to look a little bit easier or, a little bit smoother, that's where we get into the transitions. So if you want it to look a little bit more professional, you can select these and say, well, let's make them like animate on screen by fading, right? So I can drag that onto there. I can drag it onto the text. And then now as it comes in, it's going to, well, it buffers first. It's going to, it should fade in, right? Well, it didn't fade in on that one. Am I doing something wrong, Ludo? If we drag that on there.
No, because the fade is you're in the transition. Sorry, the screen is small, but you're in the transition. So you need to, so if you want to fade in, you need to right click on the actual, on the, exactly. You see on the right side, you can define how long is the fade on that section.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I didn't adjust those.
Yeah, I was distracted by the comments on
good.
designer integration.
So if we add like a 1.5 seconds fade now, if we scroll through, it's going to fade on nicely for me. If I hit play, it's going to catch up. And now it's coming on screen. If I want it to gracefully fade out, that's this slider right here. And as it gets towards the end of this little clip, then we're going to see it gracefully come out. So that's how you're kind of adding some annotations onto your video. And Ludo, this is saving automatically, right? You don't have to remember to save, like, you're using Word online.
That's the beauty of a web tool, like or the other web Microsoft 365 apps. It's auto saving. You have the structure of the video that that's there, and obviously you can what we one thing to keep in mind though is we don't do real-time editing, right? So this is something we're thinking of doing in the future, but right now if you just don't want to work together, John and Andy together on the same project at the same time. But other than this, yes, it's auto saving. Yeah, correct.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't have like the full co-authoring experience, but it's automatically there. You could share this whole project folder with somebody else, and they'd be able to get in, but you don't get the full collaborative cursors, the things that you're used to with like Whiteboard or something like that. So it kind of set expectations a little bit there of how collaboration works.
Correct. But hopefully we'll get that in the future. Yeah. And of course, be vocal with us and help us understand the use cases of, co-authoring. And there's a question about co-authoring. That would be the idea of that we would be together at the same time in the project. To be fair, I personally, I don't know if I would love, I'm John, and he is like messing with my fading that I just did. I don't know, the idea of annotating the project, things like that, once you want to collaborate on it, maybe with the idea of locking and unlocking. So this is the type of things we're going to think in the future in the roadmap. But I would say in terms of collaboration, what I see a lot of, customers and users do is that once you finish that project, imagine you're happy with that rhino and the arrow, you just stop, you close your tab, and you tell Andy, why don't you open the project and have a look at it and do your own edits, right? And then we can compare notes. Or if you don't want to mess with what John did, why don't you copy that folder that includes the assets and the .clipchamp file and make your own version of for yourself, right? So and as a result, imagine, of course, you're kind of early, it's a draft, but imagine if what you have right now on the screen would be some sort of template, and you just want to replace, swap essentially the rhino by an elephant because it's a different context. You don't have to redo the entire video. That's also what I like in Clipchamp, is this idea of reusability of the existing projects.
Yeah, Daryl has another really interesting concept or idea. Would be, imagining this like added to Microsoft Designer or something else, like what we've seen in tools like Canva, right? Where you've got this graphics and you've got this big library. Like I searched for arrows, as 109 items came up. It'd be pretty cool to be like, create with Designer, right? And be like, create me an arrow that is this yellow color that matches my branding for my company, whatever, and kind of like create those assets and then inject them directly. I think, Daryl, that might be what you're talking about is having that tie-in. Today, you would open up a new tab, you could play around with Designer, and then you could go to My Media and you could import it. But it would be pretty cool to be able to do that like directly from, the asset browser.
Correct. Yeah,
That'd
correct.
Cool.
So two answers to Daryl's question. Yes. So first of all, you can import your own assets if you have them using BrandKit, right? So it's a premium feature, but you can upload things that you would use on a regular basis. So technically, there's a section for fonts, section for colors, RGB colors. And you remember when you showed the text effect earlier, if you set up your BrandKit, they would appear directly there as a palette, right?
Yeah.
So if you go click on the color at the bottom where you have
so that would be down here as a custom palette.
Yeah, click here. Exactly. So just above default, you would have essentially your BrandKit colors that would show up here. And the last component of BrandKit, part of the BrandKit functionality, which is our V1, expected to become even more powerful in the future, is to upload your logos. But nothing prevents you from uploading an arrow or a specific banner or something that you use on a regular basis. So there is this way to do that. Another way that I envision in the future is to import your own stock libraries, right? Imagine some large customers might have existing subscription with some providers, libraries, or internal branding libraries. We don't
Yeah.
do that today, but hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. And then last but not least, it's like it's not your existing assets. I think it's a fantastic idea, like having some sort of designer integration. We work closely with that team, so stay tuned. Hopefully we can make that happen in the future. They already integrated. We announced that at Ignite, and in fact, I put the link in the chat earlier. You have also an Edge extension for designer where you can use a Gen AI and generate some images. So it's kind of easy to drag and drop and put the picture together. We don't integrate within the product for now, but it would be fantastic to do that.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. I wonder, let's check that out. So we're in deep dive mode, right? This is 365 deep dive. I want to try something like that. So Daryl inspired me. I've got the Bing sidebar right here, right? So let's open that up next to our project. And now I can say, Copilot, create a picture of a cartoon rhino, right? We're kind of going with our rhino theme right here. So we'll create that picture, and that way I'm kind of doing it side by side. Oh, something went wrong, of course. Let's go to more creative. Create a picture of a cartoon rhino. Watch it not work. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, you could kind of like do your creation over here, and then you could like bring it over by using the import button, right? Now you can drag and drop on this area, can you? Like from your desktop over to
from the desktop. Let's see if it works from the
browser to
bar.
browser.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious because like if you had the image over here, right, and you could like just click and drag, see how it's like a hotspot.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that. Let's do it with one of these rhino pictures.
From the browser, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, so I like this guy. Let's drag him in here and see if it does anything.
Huh.
Okay, so it didn't quite do what I wanted. Let's open it up. Let's drag it to that tab and over. Not quite. What if you dragged it to your desktop? Then dragged it in. Now I've got the rhino, and now I could just add that to my timeline.
You just showed me a feature request, browser to browser, drag and drop. So
right, not something that pre AI we wouldn't have thought about this, but now, yeah, it'd be great, to be able to do that from the sidebar. Just give me a picture real quick and just drag that over. That'd be pretty cool. So in the meantime, though, Daryl, you could create cool stuff using the Bing sidebar. Another reason to use Edge. Pop it on your desktop and then pop it into the project. You're good to go. So that's a pretty quick way to kind of like replace this with another picture.
To be clean, I would just say, John, that
cool.
to be the party killer, I would actually drop it not on the desktop, but maybe in the OneDrive in the folder where you have all the other stored assets, not to break the links as but yes, because that's also something that might be the number one thing I heard as well as a feedback is educating the users that they need to make sure that they keep the asset associated to the project ideally a bit organized so that you don't go all over, because technically it's a web app, right? So you could edit the project from a different computer or that's just the best practice. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that's saved locally. It's not saved to the project folder. So I guess to dig into that a little bit, if we click on the name of the project, we can always go to the folder for that project. And so under assets, it uploaded that image?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it uploaded this in this case. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're okay there. If I were to share this with Andy, it wouldn't just be like a placeholder.
You're right.
Okay.
And
that's good to know.
That's a good difference, since we touched upon this between the consumer and the enterprise version, right? The behavior of the enterprise version, it wants everything to be in that OneDrive folder, which is different from consumer. Yeah.
Yeah. Andy, you were going to say something?
I was going to ask you to expand on the folders a little bit, but you guys naturally walked into it. So I'm going to post a link in the chat window about how Clipchamp stores and processes the media files in editing projects so that people have that as a takeaway.
Yeah,
perfect.
It's a new post. I'm glad you have it, Andy. We just created that. We had a lot of requests on that topic, which is
awesome.
a bit technical, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, for our audience. I think that kind of next thing we talked about, taking this folder, this video project, sending it over to somebody else. That's a very familiar experience as well. If you're in the M365 ecosystem, you're always looking for that share button up at the top to be able to send this to Andy. It's the same type of deal. I can click share. I can use the sharing menu. I can just get a link, or I can do manage access because this is just OneDrive and SharePoint. So if I click share, it comes up with that, very common experience. I can search for Andy Honeycutt. He's right there in my tenant. I can give him either edit access or view only access, and then I can send that off. He's going to get an email that he could jump in, and we can't edit live together, but he would be able to jump in at his leisure, make some changes to it without, having to copy it and merge them together or anything like that. We're just, able to work on the same asset together, not in real time, but a little bit, asynchronously. So, I think another thing that I'm really intrigued by with Clipchamp is the aspect ratio changer. So, I'm making my videos in like 16:9, right? I'm always recording like a 1080p screen. I've got myself, I kind of put myself in the corner, but things that resonate, I'm trying to like get a little bit more, forward facing, right? And kind of consume, like, maybe I'm going to put this on Yammer or a social media feed or something like that. So maybe I want to go with cropping the entire video to be 1:1, or maybe a vertical video, something like that. This is something that, most video editing products like Camtasia or other things, once you set your project up, it's a little bit more work to try to change that view. With Clipchamp, something I really like is, you see that it says 16:9 up here in the corner. If you want to change this to, like, I'm going to post this on a Yammer feed, so I want it to be vertical video for like mobile friendly. If you click on that, now you've got these other aspect ratios that will show you live what that's going to look like. So you could go ultra wide, or you could go vertical. So if I select vertical, it's going to show me a preview of that. Now I click it, it's squeezed it down to that level, and now I can kind of lay out where I could make the screen a little bit bigger, kind of show this, make myself larger in the bottom of it. And you're kind of getting like almost like a TikTok style layout, right? So do you see a lot of people in business using this, or is this kind of like a bleeding edge? We're still getting used to talking to Gen Zers in the business world.
Well, first of all, John, I'm glad you highlight that. We didn't do that in our prep, I think, specifically, but that's one of my favorite features. In fact, this is the feature you should show even to pros, because honestly, some pros will use Premiere and Final Cut Pro. When they see that, they're like, once I have my video ready, I might just open up, a tab in my browser and just use Clipchamp to do that resizing export, right? In fact, Clipchamp is very good at export as well in terms of the size of the compression. So that's a cool use case. But yes, to your point, it's a feature that came from our consumer kind of DNA, because you're right, those aspect ratio actually match the aspect ratio of the main social medias. In fact, in the consumer version, next to 16:9 or 4:3, we also clearly states which social media uses that, and we did some integration with, Pinterest and TikTok and YouTube in the consumer product. So that's where it came from. But to answer your question, yes, I see usage in the enterprise space as well, because, some people wants to create videos for Viva. And, it's probably better to do a 4:3 aspect ratio for something like that to be in the feed, right? Sometimes 16:9 is too wide for that matter. So, that's something to keep in mind. You show that in a demo. Sometimes Clipchamp, based on the assets you have on the screen, does a very good job at just resizing, and literally it's ready to go. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of work to resize, to fit, and make sure you highlight the part of the assets that you really want to highlight.
Yeah, and that's good for like the content creators who are watching. You saw that like my assets were in a 16:9 friendly, but I'm gonna try to speak to a Viva Engage crowd. So I want to do that vertical video. You notice like I had to make some changes, right? Because like maybe it didn't line up the way that I had recorded it. So it's better for me to be like in the bottom third, my demo in the top third. So that changed like where I needed to put my arrow, right? I kind of pushed it up a little bit. I made some formatting changes to kind of like, work a little bit better within those constraints. So actually, why don't we take this and send it over and export it and kind of show what that looks like. So this is something that people have asked for a lot with Microsoft Stream, is the ability to trim. If you want to go trim your video, like I want to get rid of the beginning or the end of my video, you can select the pieces that you want to trim. They're highlighted in green. Now you can grab these handles on the end, and we're going to shorten that up a little bit. So it's like, what do I do with this blank space that's 6 minutes right here? You'll notice the little trash can goes right there. If you click that, it's going to delete all that dead space and kind of move it to the beginning. Then I can do the same thing to the end. I can shorten it down, and now I've made this 36 seconds in length. And then from there, we can export that. So I'm going to click export. It's defaulted to 1080p. Is that based off the upload?
And John, just a quick comment before. If you happen to have what we call those gaps before the video, actually Clipchamp will tell you, hey, I guess I could do the British guy here and mind the gap, right? I try to export now.
Okay, yeah. So we've got a big gap at the beginning. We try to export. Oh, it tells you mind the gap.
Actually, I forgot it says mind the gap. So here we go. I try to remove those gaps. So what can I say? Australia, Commonwealth, the British.
So it says, hey, you've got some dead space. Maybe you want to fix that a little bit. So you can click go back and fix, and then you can do something with it. Why don't I want to see something here. If I split this clip and I put my gap in the middle, it probably recognizes that too, right? Yeah, it sees it even if it's in the middle of your video as well. So it doesn't have to be on the front or the end. So we'll delete this. We'll go ahead and shorten this clip down. We're going to squeeze this down. We're going to delete that gap, and then we're going to squeeze this down so that it's short, so it goes quickly. And you'll see that our video now is like a minute and a half in length. We're going to click export, and then we've got 1080p. Does it default to that because I uploaded 1080p content, or does it always kind of try the highest level?
I believe it by default to 1080p. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So
that's what we recommend. Obviously, 480. When you want to make sure you share it with, when you want to share it with somebody actually for feedback, and you don't want to create a big file, that's actually used. And you see the 4K as a premium functionality. I'm actually very curious to know if you have some use cases that require 4K. I don't think it's mainstream. I don't think that's for everybody. Obviously, storage is there.
Yeah.
Just know that the Stream team announced that Stream is going to support 4K as well. So that's kind of also a way to be consistent across the product suites.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like 1080p is kind of my standard, me and Andy, Daryl, Al, we have like a Twitter DM that's been going on for like years now. And I think Daryl's making the move to 4K for a lot of his content. Those guys are kind of pushing the envelope. I still upload everything 1080p. I don't know, Andy, are you trying to move to 4K?
I was just going to comment, Daryl made a really good point about capturing in 4K. He likes to capture in 4K because then it gives him the ability to crop in after the fact if he needs to zoom in like a certain part of content later on whenever he's going back and doing the editing. As far as posting in 4K, my thoughts around that are I think 1080p is good enough for now. But if I want to make something a little bit more future-proof, if I think I have a video that that's going to last for a few years, I might post it in 4K just so I have like that higher quality to be able to, maybe go back and look at down the road. So like, for example, if I were going to edit a video around like my kids, I'm going to probably capture that in 4K because I want to future-proof it as much as I can. But if it's something like, if I'm doing it with the rate of change in the Microsoft ecosystem, if I'm doing a training video on maybe how to do this thing in Teams, the user interface is probably going to change before the video resolution is going to be outdated on it. So I'm probably going to go ahead and just lean into 1080p and then edit and then save that 4K for things that I think are going to have a little bit longer longevity.
Yeah. So we've got 1080p. We'll stick with that because we're not premium right now. I always, am a big advocate of like, let's save it to the cloud. That's checked by default. You'll notice that it's going to save it to my OneDrive folder. It's going to add a new folder to that project location called exports. So I could export to that location. Now, I'm curious about like the philosophy about this, because in one way you might want to keep that there to organize it. But in my use case, let's say that I'm just gonna, we're doing like an Ask Me Anything, and I'm gonna cut together a quick video in like 2 minutes. I just want to get it over to Yammer. You could also change the location and you could save it to a more future area. Like say that we're in a Viva Engage community that has a SharePoint behind it, because every Viva Engage has a SharePoint. If you click change location, you can select one of your M365 groups right here. So we could select that, and then we could, put it into another folder called videos or something like that, and go to that location if we wanted to. I'm curious what your recommendation is, Ludo, if you think is it better in most cases to save it to a long-term storage solution, or is it better to save it with the project file so you have that organization?
Yeah, I don't have a strong point of view. I think it's a question of self-organization. I think you're right. The beauty of it is like every team, every individual will be different, and at least they're familiar with it. It's not another storage system, right? Before the integration with Microsoft, we had our own storage kind of library and folders, and it created an unnecessary duplication of your organization. So just respect whatever is the process. And obviously, I just want also to insist that, yes, you're going to create some videos that are for broad consumption. You're a trainer in a large organization. Of course, you might want to put that in Viva or whatever your library, easy to consume in stream, and you'll show that in a minute. In some cases, it's just a video you want to keep local and send with a few colleagues in the chat channel, right? So in this case, I would keep it in the folder. That would be my preference, right? Because then it's like, I know where it is and it's associated to the project. I want to do another birthday video 6 months later for another colleague. Guess what? I can use the same template. I spend, 30 minutes to build. So yeah.
Okay, so I'll export it this way, and then we'll address Daryl's question about starting from a SharePoint site instead. Like, what if you just start in that collaborative space? I think that's a really good one. So you see, like, this was a 1 and 22-second video. It processed that in like 10 seconds maybe. And now it's uploading 208 megs. So I was doing all that editing locally in my browser. Now it's actually exporting that up to that folder location.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the behavior. You click save to the cloud. So far, technically you were independent of the cloud, right? In fact, we're literally doing everything locally with your different assets. And now it's time to make it available based on your location, which is going to have a magic effect, is that it's ready for consumption in stream, right? And I'm thinking I'm stealing your next maybe click, right? When it's going to be ready there, you can actually watch it in stream. The word publish, which is the first option at the bottom, is interesting. You could argue it's like watch on stream because it's already there. But I think we made that choice because it's kind of a way to say, okay, I want to, publish my video on stream. So let's go to that page and actually just and do the additional post production you might want to do, like chaptering things like
so focusing in on this screen a little bit, I really like the user design of this, kind of the visual design, because one, you can watch your video right here. You don't have to go out to some other place. You can kind of make sure it looks okay. I would say probably my own workflow would be, if you're an independent creator, then you're probably just going to go straight to stream. You're going to go publish it to your audience. But a lot of people, they're in like corporate comms, or they're in, I'm doing this with like 3 other people, and maybe I want to send it for their approval. That would be what I like. This option right here is I could share it. I've whittled it down. I've basically rendered out the video. Now I want to share it so my executive can approve it. So if I click that, I could send this to like Alex Wilbur at Contoso and say, will you please approve this? And then he can email me back, say, good to go. At that point, then I would publish it for broad consumption. So I like that, you know, from this screen, no matter if you're like an independent person and you have the final authority, or you need to get somebody to like, you know, look at it first, you can kind of do that from this screen. So I think that's a great feature. So we'll click publish, and then, like you said, it might as well just be watch with stream, because now we've got the stream video player. Now I can add transcript. I could generate that, so I get my captions, add chapters to it, all the stream functionality right there, and then I could like publish it to a playlist or wherever I'm going to go from that point.
Does it automatically add a thumbnail?
I think it did. Let's go to exports. And then let's view it as tiles. Yeah, it kind of generated a thumbnail. That's a keyframe from like midway through the video. Let's open it up and just look at video settings and about. So it did auto select a thumbnail. Yeah. And I can change that if I want to. So I could do two things. I could select a different frame and say, oh, this is perfect. I could select that frame and make that my new thumbnail, or I could design one and upload it. This would be another thing that for the stream team who's watching, if you could use, you know, designer right here, or this would be a Copilot type of tie-in to say, make a thumbnail, and then using Copilot, it would understand what the video is about and like give you a thumbnail, you know, that would be pretty rad.
Can you go back to the export screen?
Yes. Yeah. So over here, there we go.
It would be really cool if we could add a thumbnail as we're getting ready to export, and then just have that be in the flow. That way it'd all be kind of one process, just some feature feedback.
That would be nice. I did see you could add a description. I'm curious, Ludo, does that add a description to the file in stream? Like, is that the video description?
That's a very good question. I don't know where it shows, actually. If it's just the metadata of the file, let's try.
Yeah, let's try it. Let's re-render it and see what happens. This is so fast to render out. I mean, I am on a, you know, Mac Studio with like a ridiculous processor, so maybe that's helping. I'm also on gigabit Ethernet right now too, so you're seeing that 200 megs upload really fast. I'm sure that's dependent on everybody's own, you know, internet connection for how fast that's going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so as it's uploading, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're going to give this just a second to upload, just filling in the space.
Yeah, and
yeah,
if you
dead
need
air.
more space, I'm not going to steal the screen because you can try that at home by yourself. But if you look at the consumer version, you have a pretty similar interface, except that we have all those integration, right? So export to TikTok. In fact, we were one of the first video editor that TikTok allowed to use an API to do export to TikTok from the desktop. So, you know, there are some use cases where, of course, you have a great set of capabilities in TikTok, you know, mobile app, but you can do that from Clipchamp. The most used by far is obviously YouTube, and you can actually add some metadata. So back to your question, in this case, they would show if it's an unlisted video, you can define all that, and you have a few other integration as well. But we removed that for the enterprise version at the request of most of our customers, obviously.
Yeah. So Andy, it is the description for the stream video.
All right.
We'll put it right there at the bottom.
There we go.
Yeah.
I learned something myself.
That's what we love about these deep dives. We're kind of learning as we go, and it's all live. Maybe it won't work. You know, that's kind of the fun of it. So to Daryl's question about doing this directly from like a Microsoft team, right? Or from a SharePoint that's behind a Viva Engage group. If we're in, actually, let's go from SharePoint, right? So let's go into SharePoint, and I've got this collaborative space that we're working in called 365 Deep Dive. If I want to add a new folder called videos, I always like to make them red because like stream is kind of the red color, you know? So we'll do that, videos. Now, if I click new, yes, Daryl, you can make a Clipchamp video from the SharePoint location. So we can do that, and then we can do, you know, maybe on this little clip, since we're, pretty far in, why don't we show the recording feature, like the actually recording the video? Because I think that's a big thing that we're missing so far, right?
It is, and frankly, I would say I like the aspect ratio. My second most favorite is the webcam recorder.
Yeah.
I always like to joke about the fact that you need to eradicate once for all that behavior of organizing team meetings with yourself just to record yourself, right? So no, we have a joking aside, we have a strong webcam recorder. In fact, that's a component that you'll recognize being in stream as well. Back to my initial point in the introduction, we're trying to have consistent experiences across Microsoft.
Yeah.
So there are still some exceptions, but basically want to use the same UX. And so if you record yourself in stream or in Clipchamp, it's going to be almost an identical experience.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate of the screen recorder in stream. In the new stream on SharePoint, it's even better, and it gets a lot of the same functionality shared with Clipchamp. So we'll show that interface, but yeah, from stream, you can always like do a recording, and you could start recording and then edit it using Clipchamp. Again, if I go back to Clipchamp right here, we've got a blank thing. Let's say that we're just going to record like 30 seconds for how to share a file with OneDrive. So to do that, rather than importing my media, recording it off site, pulling it in, instead we're going to click the record button right here at the top. Let's do that. We have two options available. I could record my screen and camera, or I could record just my camera. So if I want to like have a talking head, I'm an executive, doing like a heart to heart, I could do just the webcam. Or because I'm doing a technical tutorial, I'll select screen and camera. I'll allow it to record my screen in my browser. And then I want to select, actually, let's go back. I've got my camera right here. My options are up here at the top. So I can choose not to be on camera. I could, dither that out. I could mute myself because maybe I want to do a voiceover later. Or I can select which camera I want to use. So if I've got a camera over there, I could switch to that view. I'm going to stick to my Elgato cam link. I can select which microphone I want to use. I can make sure it's working across the bottom right there. So this is actually going to record with my AirPods. If I wanted to, I want to use my good microphone, so I would select that, right? So I've got my good microphone, my good camera. The other thing is a teleprompter. When I was clicking on this earlier, it wasn't coming up, but I don't know, Ludo, if you can talk to the teleprompter experience a little bit, because I think that's pretty cool in stream.
Yes, I think you might need to be on a webcam because the teleprompter is designed to be you need along. And by the way, it should
Good
work.
point.
Now.
There we go.
There we go. This one happened to me, so that's not one. I'm not taken by surprise. So and please keep the teleprompter and do something. I see you're being creative. Just so you know, on my internal version, we also have the screen recorder only. So you don't have to do the little hack which you did, which is disabling the webcam. So it's probably going to come live in your public version very soon. So
okay,
because a lot of people do screen recording only, and they don't necessarily think of disabling the webcam. So anyway, the teleprompter was a pretty requested feature, frankly. So it has two benefits. One is you can have the text in front of you. You don't look on the right, look at the bottom. How many of those execs videos we've seen where you can tell they're reading from the bottom and it doesn't make it natural? And then the second benefit, what I just said, not only you have your text, but you can position that exactly where you want. So you can look at your webcam and make sure that you have like eye contact with the audience. So that's cool. And frankly, you're doing the feature request, by showing, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
You imagine that you would have right there a button to generate a script.
Generate your script. Yeah. So what I did is I opened up the Bing sidebar and I'm asking Copilot to generate a 1-minute video about how to share a file in OneDrive. We're going to copy that script. Then we're going to paste it right here. And you can see that it's scrolling. It's this big, right? I can make that smaller or I can make it bigger. I can also change the speed. So if I click play, it's going to go at this speed. OneDrive is a cloud storage solution that lets you store and access. Maybe I want to speed that up so I could make it go faster, or I could make it go slower. So we go ahead, we pause that, we scroll up to the top, and then now we're going to click record. Or actually, here's another thing we can do. So let's close that out for the time being. We've got backdrops that we can do. So we could upload an image, we can blur the background. We can do what we were showing before we went live, is we could do a fake green screen effect. Then now I could add that to my edit if I want to. There's disco effect. I like this one. This is really cool. Kind of the time lapse, you know, it's moving, right? Like this, it looks static, but actually no, the light is moving. So it looks really, you know, kind of engaging. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to select that green screen. The other thing I can do is I can draw if I want to. So I could say, you know, like hi, like that. Maybe that I don't like that color, so I'm going to change it to, well, not green. Change it to white.
This is needed. You need the stylus on your Surface to.
Right. Yeah. On a Mac, it's not going to look as pretty, but yeah. I can do that. I can put myself in the corner and draw like a whiteboard, you know, like that. I could put myself really big in the middle. If I click the clear button, it's going to wipe my whiteboard away. Actually, if I select it and just delete those assets, right? All those little pen strokes that I made, we'll clean that up. So that is the drawing. The backdrop. We'll bring my teleprompter up, and then I can click record. Counts me down. I can say, hello, welcome to this tutorial on how to share a file in OneDrive. OneDrive is a cloud storage solution that lets you store and access your files from anywhere. You can also share your files with others and collaborate on them in real time. So there's my little intro. First time ever reading that script because, you know, Copilot made it for me. And we've got our clip. We can record it again. Like I messed up, I want to start over, or we can just say next. So now I'm watching myself and I can hear myself. I want to save and edit. And now I've got this as the video talking head portion. The next thing I want to do is I want to record my screen, right? So I've done my intro. I spoke to my script. I don't want to record myself. I don't want to record my mic. So I'll just record my screen, right? And in here, after it counts down, maybe what I want to do is I want to go over to SharePoint. I want to click on content. I want to show how to like share this video. I want to email it, right? So it's going to come up. I'm going to share it with Alex Wilbur. I'm going to hit send. Done. I'm done with my demo. I go back to where that is. I stop recording, save and edit. Now I've got the video screen, the talking head. So again, we're going to put those together. So now I am on top of my video. And then Ludo, what you were showing before we went live is because I've got this fake green screen, I can go to, is it under effects or filters to cut me out?
Sorry, I'm on mute. It was effects.
Oh, no. Okay, so yeah, we go to effects and we've got all these different effects to like make it look like a VHS tape, make it look, you know, really like obnoxious. I want to select that clip and I want to click green screen. So it's going to cut out everything that's green. Now I am transparent over the top of my video. I can shrink myself down and put myself in the corner. And now I've got a talking head, kind of like a Twitch style talking head video. Mute myself. So now I'm creating this as I'm, you know, making the video. I'm talking over it. I recorded it in 2 places and I never left my browser. So pretty sweet stuff.
Yes, and the green screen is probably also my third favorite feature because the one tip though, and that's what I was doing before the show, you need to make sure that the top recording, so the one that you're going to apply the green screen to, is on top in the timeline, right? Because that's in front. So essentially what you do is you put it on the top. There is some sort of priority ordering, you know, that's don't want to confuse people, but and then it essentially removes indeed the green screen. A lot of people order green screen, physical green screen. I don't think you need to anymore. This feature is very powerful. That's something that usually comes from the Pro Tools, right? Because
Yeah. My background is very busy, and it did a great job of cutting me out, you know. And
Except for
my
the man
hair,
bun.
I've got too much volume on my hair right now. Daryl is like, it makes you look like a man bun. Now I can move myself over to that side if I want, and again, I can mirror myself, so I look like I'm kind of like angled, and I'm talking over my screen, right? You wouldn't probably do this in most cases because you don't want to cover what you're demonstrating, but that's all right. So that is a pretty good looking video. Like, this is so far ahead from scheduling a meeting with yourself in Teams, recording that meeting, all the compression that comes along with that. You know, you've recorded it in the browser, you've cut yourself out. You've got a way more professional look and feel than a Teams recording.
Yeah.
You know,
and what a lot of people do, they just put their little face, or at the beginning of the video, in some instances, just to engage the audience, but the rest of the time they would focus on the content, use the arrows and things like that, right? That's why you have the editorial content. Yeah.
And that's what we could do here is, like, say that I want to start with a talking head portion, and then I want to go to this split screen. I can totally do that if I want to. So I could go to the beginning of this clip right here, and I'm going to click the S button. We're going to split that clip. And now these are two independent clips. So this version, maybe I don't want that filter. I want it to be, fully me. So can I do that? Make myself bigger in this portion?
Yeah, you can. You're just an independent object. Yeah.
Yeah, let's make me full size like that. And then the effects, we're going to do none. And let's just do this. So we're going to pretend that I didn't have a green screen, right? So I got like a nice background.
Or you can get a background picture, right? That would be a nice,
That's true. Yeah, I could change it to like another picture. Actually, let's do that. Let's do stock images. Let's do like, I don't know, background. Yeah. So here's like a couple of backgrounds. Most of these are premium. We're going to select this one because why not? So again, you're going to put that underneath your background. And now I've got this, nice fancy background. In between here, let's add a transition, right? Yeah. So I'm going to add this transition where I'm going to do like a cross blur. And let's see what that looks like. So I'm doing my introduction right now, talking about OneDrive. I'm going to do my edit. I kind of fade a little bit to the corner, and now I'm on my screen.
And
so
that's a good demo. I love it, John. And by the way, the good news is all that was like real time, right? There's no processing or buffering. Yeah, you have a great machine, and I'm not saying you're never going to see the buffering message. As you can tell, everything is real time. You don't like the transition, just drag and drop another one. You can actually just switch the transition. You just take it, and if you actually drag and drop it on the existing transition, it's just gonna
Ooh, I kind of like that one. So yeah, like you saw in real time, I was clicking different transitions. It's just adding it, automatically saving it. So in your video, you could be like, this is about OneDrive. Let's get started. And then I slide away. I slide over to the side, and here we are in the demo. Let's check it out.
Exactly.
That's so smooth.
And right-click on the transition, John, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You can also define the duration of it.
Yeah. So underneath the transition, I can make it like 2 seconds instead of 1 second. And now it's going to be slower to slide me over.
Exactly.
Dude, that looks pretty cool. That actually looks pretty good. So yeah, you've got that. I've got a morph glitch. We can see what that looks like. So I kind of like faded and then faded in on the other side. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool things that you can do. There's a lot of these transitions that you can change over to. So I glitched out and then I glitched into the bottom corner.
Now the question about the transitions is there a Clippy tap the screen transition?
A tap the the Clippy like tap 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 from the when he's like waiting for you. That would be good. Yeah, they should, like, Clippy is retro now. You should really like add some Clippy things,
Well,
throughout Clipchamp. That'd be fun little Easter eggs.
Actually, to be true, in one of the internal hackathon, I actually went after the archives team at Microsoft and got some old school Clippy things that we were thinking about making a some sort of pack of Microsoft nostalgia for the consumer version. I don't know if it would land well in the enterprise, but maybe we should resurrect that idea. Yeah,
that's the thing is like it's old enough that like us millennials like have like I have a special place in my heart for Clippy, and it's like I want to see Clippy emerge back in Microsoft like branding and kind of lean into it. But I imagine internally Clippy is probably like some sacred thing that it's like Mario is to Nintendo. It's like we can't mess this up, and ruin Clippy and or people who are like older than me, right? Like they have a negative view of Clippy, like that was so stupid. But like I was growing up with Clippy, so like that was awesome back in the day.
Yeah.
So it's probably an internal battle all the time in marketing, I bet, with Microsoft. So we talked about recording and media import. We talked about all of that. Dwayne says who's behind Copilot. Dwayne, the person behind Copilot is Sydney. Don't get that wrong. It's it's Sydney, and she loves the New York Times. So, so what are we missing here? One thing that I was thinking about is, so my friend Lee Reed at EY, he was talking about a couple of his favorite features in Clipchamp, and he mixed up the consumer version of Clipchamp with the commercial, because he was saying his favorite part of Clipchamp is text to speech. And the text to speech I notice is not available in my tenant. Is that something that's coming to the commercial version?
So John, I will
any
give you a
knowledge
scoop.
about that yet?
I will give you a scoop. I give a scoop to this audience. It is planned to be available to all commercial users the last week of February. So fingers crossed that we hit that deadline. The background of text-to-speech is that it's actually an Azure service that we call. But as you could imagine, even though it's our friends from Azure who build that service, we need to make it compliant and make sure it works well in the context of M365. And that's why it took us a little bit of time. But this feature is definitely a delighter because it basically supports more than 150 languages. You have different pitches. I mean, it's pretty powerful. You type a text and it really creates a good rendering. I tried myself in French. I try in French Canadian. This is totally mind blowing. And one of the things that's cool is that when you record yourself, imagine earlier you were diligent about recording only your face, just assuming you didn't need the text or something like that. But there is a feature on Clipchamp if you share your project again, maybe John. And go click on the video that has a soundtrack. So I guess this one.
Yeah, the talking head.
On the right, there's a one-click button that allows you to detach the audio. So think about that use case where you record yourself doing something in English, and guess what? Just remove the audio track and create with text-to-speech the equivalent of what you wanted to say. Of course, you'll need to adjust the time, but you might use the the speed to match the time. But that's kind of an interesting way to use text-to-speech.
That's a great idea. Yeah, you could basically, you're overdubbing yourself with an AI text-to-speech capability. Yeah, that's so powerful to put in people's hands. That's crazy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite uses of text-to-speech is to have a conversation. John, you saw it was a workshop video for a conference that I speak at, and as an introduction to the session, I had a conversation with my AI assistant, but I generated the voice of the AI assistant using text-to-speech. I was using Azure Cognitive Services for that. This would make that whole process so much simpler because I could just do it in the process of actually editing the video and kind of go back and forth conversationally. So I'm really excited into February to explore that.
Insert animated GIF of Clippy here, right? Like you could have Clippy animating and you could have like your recording and then text to speech of Clippy responding to you. and then lose your MVP status because you used Clippy inappropriately. There's a good thing by Daryl here about also detaching audio is really good if you want to, go between your cuts, right? And you want that consistent audio track, you doing what's called a J cut or an F cut, I think is what it's called, where you kind of like the talking starts before the person comes in. If you detach your audio, you can see that like my audio overlaps the edit. If I hide the comment, my audio overlaps that edit, so I could insert like a J cut there. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And then another use case is actually to remove any sort of accent, right? You want to have a clean, pure. I mean, I'm an example of it. Obviously, I have a strong French accent, so if I want to do a more, slick video that's a bit more formal, maybe I want to be behind the AI. Actually, I would challenge you to trick some people. Text to speech, is really high fidelity. So. I like the female voice more, frankly. I think they're smooth, but you can try. You have usually per language a couple of a few male voices. So play with it. So it doesn't have to do about translation. It could be also. I liked a lot the dialogue and Andy, what you said. I actually never thought of that. Or you might want in a video to mix the two. In fact, what I did before is that the introduction, I would do it personally. This is me. I want to make sure I make it personable, and I do a video of myself speaking, and this is who I am. But in the rest of the presentation, the voiceover will be made with the voiceover, the text to speech, because I want that to be more equal, right? No distraction, no joke. It's the text, and that's it, right?
Yeah. I was looking up on my phone what Lee said when he was giving me feedback. He said his favorite voice is Andrew. He said that's the one that he likes the best when he's doing text to speech. But yeah, so that's available in the consumer version today. It sounds like commercial coming soon. That's a great scoop to have. That makes me very excited. I'm sure it'll make Lee really excited too. So just to kind of like focus on that, on the Clipchamp website, you can scroll through and kind of get a preview, at least how it works today in the consumer side. I'm sure it could be a little bit different when it comes over to commercial, but essentially it's another type of thing that you're recording is you're putting your text in there, and then you're picking the language, the voice that it's going to be in. You put the text in, and then it adds it to the timeline.
I was going to share my screen, but I think the website does the job perfectly.
Yeah, if you want to, you totally can. Yeah.
Wow, it's the same thing. So I mean, it's
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's going to be really, really cool for the business world, especially as we kind of lean into a little bit more of like the vertical video, the kind of TikTok style of engagement for making things for like Viva Engage and stuff. A big block that people have to creating content is I don't think I sound good enough, or, they're self-conscious about how they look or how they sound. This could get away from that. And like, you've got expertise to share, just record your screen, go ahead and throw a text to speech on there and get yourself out there. And you can kind of build comfort and get to the point where you're recording your own voice.
Yeah, and when we talk about that, I can't help thinking about the future, because I've seen some cool demos of voice cloning where you could, as a content creator, you might have a team, but you're the face of whatever brand, whatever organization you are, and you want to enable people on your behalf to create things, right? So text to speech, using your vocal footprint, of course, it brings a lot of challenges and of all sorts. But this is step one towards a direction. So you can imagine the Clipchamp roadmap is full of functionalities, AI-powered functionalities that could help you actually, have avatars, voice cloning, things like that, right? So right now, Clipchamp gives you the basic tools to make those creative projects. But we want to have your feedback as customers, and that's part of my job, engaging with you, John and Andy already. But I welcome feedback from the rest of your audience, and to basically try to prioritize and making sure we don't ship gimmicky things, but we ship things that are really useful in the context of your workflows.
Yeah, I like how accessible that's going to make things. Speaking of, if you go to the website on here, I think Andy, actually, let me throw this in the chat for you guys. So this is the link that I'm showing on screen right now. At the bottom, there's some blog posts that kind of go along this subject as well. So there's like how to make your own voiceover, how to do a product demo, but also like accessibility things. They've got a recent blog post on here about how to make your videos more accessible with Clipchamp. And that's something that, I'm always really happy that Microsoft leans way into is accessibility up front and part of the design process. So on this page, again, let me grab this and add it. This guy will take you through a checklist of how you can, make your videos more accessible to people, including things like those auto captions, those voiceovers, things like that with AI. So
Exactly.
Really cool.
Yeah, this is one of the great influence as well we got from Microsoft is making sure we go to the next level. Clipchamp always was conscious of this. In fact, I would just mention that auto captioning is something that's available today in the consumer version.
Okay.
Clipchamp Enterprise, we don't have auto captioning yet. We're working on something there within the product. But part of the reason why we didn't prioritize that is you can do that in stream, right? You imagine
exactly.
that video that you have like wide reach is going to be on stream, and you can create the transcript, and you have a lot of powerful functionalities. And John, maybe you can show that for those.
Yeah. So to get that, you're going to export. You're going to publish your video to stream. You go up to video settings right here, and then under transcript and captions, we're just going to generate that transcript. I'm in United States English, so I'm going to generate. Now I've got that caption file, and it generates it as a transcript that I can go fix whatever mess ups there were in the auto captioning. I can change and edit those, and I can save those edits as well. So definitely something as part of your workflow. Don't forget to do this step so that one, it makes it more accessible, but two, because it's a transcript, it makes your video searchable. So it's going to come up in Microsoft search results a lot easier because, it's able to be found better. So, yep.
So guys, we're about 10 or 12 minutes out from the top of the hour, and we've got just a couple of bullet points that we haven't quite covered on our outline. So I just want to make sure we cover those if we need to. And then we do want to bring up the kind of the feature comparison. We're talking a little bit about consumer comparing with enterprise. So we do have a feature comparison. We just want to make sure that we bring that up as we get to the end. But the bullet points, just to kind of cover, I want to go back to the timeline for a moment. There are a couple of timeline things I just want to make sure that we get out there. Selecting multiple clips and grouping items on the timeline and working with items in a group scenario. So let's make sure we get into that, and then adjusting speed for video clips and audio clips.
Okay, so yeah, we'll dive into like the grouping stuff. So I can select clips individually by clicking them in the timeline down here. You see that they get a green highlight around them. I can select multiples if I hold down my shift key. And then how would I group these? I would just right click and hit group. So if I'm going to group those together, now if I click one, they're all going to move together as a single entity, right? And they've got this dashed line around them. So that's important. Like if I've got my video is lined up, let me ungroup it. This video is lined up perfectly with the screen recording. I would want to select those and group them so that I don't accidentally move one without the other and now they're out of sync. So super helpful there. Is there another use case for grouping, or is it usually because people don't want to like have things get mismatched?
Yeah, I think it's just moving things around. It's just a natural behavior you have in other apps that we wanted to have in Clipchamp. Yeah.
Now the other thing, Andy, you said speed. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, speed of a clip.
Okay, so yeah, that's over here under. These are kind of these are the transformations. These are the assets on the left side. So we're going to transform this clip by making it faster. That's the speed option right here. And I can either speed it up or I can slow it down. And you can see it gets longer or shorter on my timeline by doing that. So yeah, that's how we can speed up and slow down. And you saw that it did it to the entire group because I grouped them together. If I ungroup them and do just this one, change the speed on it, it's going to change just that one and not all three clips. So, I didn't lose you guys, but yeah, it told me I lost internet for a second. Let me refresh the page. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep, loud and
Yes.
clear.
Okay. Okay, good.
It wouldn't have been a demo without one of those, right? Come on.
Right. Yeah. I broke it. So, but yeah, the speed, that's good to show. What else are we missing from our checklist? I'm sorry I didn't follow it.
I'm going to
in
send
order.
over a link in the chat window if you'll bring it up on the screen for everyone. So
Okay. Yep.
actually, it's yeah, it'll be at the bottom of the chat. Just make sure we bring this one up. We're doing a lot of stuff like kind of manually, mouse cursor kind of moving all over. As you start getting into it and working more with it, keyboard shortcuts are going to be a natural extension to speed up your workflow overall.
Mhm.
They get some great documentation on the keyboard shortcuts. And if you're like John and I and some of our friends, we're big fans
Yep.
of the Elgato Stream Deck. So you can take these and you put them on your Stream Deck and you can streamline through
Yep.
there as well.
I was just going to say that. That's why I smiled so big. So yeah, you could create, if I go to configure Stream Deck, you could open up this page that I think Andy's going to put in the YouTube chat. You could open this guy up, and then you could create a new profile for Clipchamp, and then you could, just have an entire bank of buttons for those keys, and then now you're video editing, with shortcuts that you could have icons for. Super cool, kind of advanced thing. But yeah, there's a lot of shortcuts here, man. Navigation, display, moving items around.
Yeah, there's some great scenarios or some disabled folks could basically do a video project. You wouldn't think it's the easiest thing, right? But yeah, so a lot of effort.
Not to put you on the spot, but has there been any conversation around a Stream Deck plugin for a lot of the shortcuts, kind of similar to like the Teams plugin
That'd be
for Stream
awesome.
Deck?
Not that I know of, but it's noted.
I know that I just know John and I are big users of it, and I know a number of people that are joining in with us are also big users of the Stream Deck. So a Stream Deck plugin.
Let's play with that for a second.
Would be
if that's
really really cool.
I want to try this. So I can move my seeker forward or back, or I can scroll the timeline up or down. Let's do move the seeker forward or back. So that's the left and right arrow. So if we go back here, I'm moving this forward and back, right? So I'm kind of scrubbing with my arrows. But I've got a Stream Deck because I'm fancy. I could go to my Stream Deck Plus and I could add a new page. And with this dial, so I've got a physical dial. I'm going to go here to my dials. I'm going to do a hotkey and add that to the dial. And if I rotate it counterclockwise, I want to go back. Clockwise, I want to go forward. And then let's say, what's the one for like play pause? Play pause is space bar. Yeah. So if I click the button, I'm going to do a space bar. Now you're going to have to imagine I'm grabbing the dial and now I'm moving it forward and backward. Nice. And I'm pushing the dial to play. So now I have a physical button scrubber on here that works with Clipchamp, which is just a web app.
I love
those of you at home, this is what I'm using. It's a Stream Deck Plus. So go buy one of these for a cool $200, and you can turn one of these knobs into a forward and backward button. And now, without having to buy expensive video hardware, you can scrub your timeline.
Christmas months ago, unfortunately, but that's great.
Yeah. So there we go. Right. That's one that we need to make into a YouTube short, Andy.
At some point, we should look at trying to get some Elgato affiliate links. The number of times we've mentioned like Stream Deck. One more
Ludo's
shout out.
Like getting his Microsoft credit card ready to go buy a Stream Deck, and it's for work.
One more shout out to Elgato, and I thought about this while you were doing the teleprompter stuff a little while ago. The Elgato teleprompter with the Clipchamp webcam recorder and teleprompter functionality, that's going to be really cool. So I can't wait to see somebody test that.
Yeah. There's not there's not keyboard shortcuts for this, is there? Do you happen to know?
I don't think so. Yeah.
To scroll up and down. See, okay, so product team who's watching, who own the teleprompter feature, if you could have a teleprompter up and down button, then I would be able to go to my Stream Deck and I would be able to have like a scroll up, scroll down. Then rather than it just going at auto speed, I could have my hand off screen and I could basically scroll up and scroll down at my own pace. So that if I let go of it, it would stop where I'm at. I could take a pause, then I could reach down and I could keep scrolling through my teleprompter. So yeah, if you put shortcuts there, then I'd be able to use my Stream Deck as a teleprompter controller.
But not just your Stream Deck. If there were shortcuts for that, you could
Yeah,
also map
make it
to
up
the
down
wheel
so
on
you
your
could
mouse
push
or your
these buttons.
keyboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, your hand, if you're doing a demo, your chances are your hand's already on the mouse. So we could just convert the wheel, for example, using your own Logitech options. Yeah.
That would be cool. I think another thing you could do is if I go back over here to Bing chat. Oh no, I lost it. Let's go in here. Yeah, I lost it. Is this gonna, no, it's just the thing. Let's just paste it a million times. I could scroll up and down as well, you know? So if I went in here and I hit record, we're gonna start recording. And then like I could pause it and then I could, with my hand off screen, I could scroll down as I'm talking, right? So like I could control it myself that way if I wanted to by saying like Clipchamp, you know, I could like scroll as I go. So I guess you could do that. But that would be pretty cool. Let me just say, give me a script about OneDrive. Let's create some actual text. I guess I could do that with the up and down arrows if I were to like select the feature first. So just to go off the rails. Oh my gosh, I said create a script. It created like a PowerShell script. That's not what I wanted, but it works. So I could do the up and down arrows. So if we go back over here, create a new button right here, and I did like, I want it to go up, I want it to go down, I want it to like play pause. So now I've got a teleprompter scroller. Then as I'm recording now, I could use my wheel and I'm scrolling down, I'm scrolling up through my script manually.
Beautiful.
So, but yeah, there's not, it doesn't look like there's a keyboard shortcut to hit this pause play button. So yeah, but, okay, we're going way outside of typical demo, but that's pretty fun to think about, like taking your Clipchamp experience to the next level. If you've got a Stream Deck, like a lot of people bought during the pandemic, you could think about those keyboard shortcuts and maybe you can make yourself even more effective in Clipchamp.
That's really cool. I also know that Acer during COVID also released a laptop with a little touchscreen on top of the actual keyboard where you could, you know, so I haven't tested that, but this is something that was very well optimized for video editing. So I'm sure there's like a bunch of, you know, hardware integration. We're not optimizing for that persona, so to say, right? Yeah. But I think I'll make sure that most of our products, including the teleprompter lead, looks like what you did with the device. Yeah.
Just with standard keyboard shortcuts, we can kind of make it fit into other gadgets. Yeah, that'd be cool. Okay, are we missing anything else, Andy? I'm sure Stream Deck support wasn't on the list.
I wanted to show you BrainKit if you want quickly.
Yeah.
So if you can give me the access to the slide, the screen. There we go.
Oh,
thank you.
Sorry. There we go. I clicked it too fast.
Yeah, I'm talking to the producer. So yeah, so first of all, maybe that's also something you didn't show or showed quickly. If you click on Clipchamp, which you can create a shortcut of right on the left. So I have my Copilot, Clipchamp, my Stream, my Excel. You can tell this is what I prefer to use on the web. I have to admit, I'm old school. I like to use PowerPoints on the desktop app. So that's why I don't have a shortcut, but that's my own preference. So you see, there is a consolidation of all your projects. I don't do a good job at naming them because I do a lot of demos that are not necessarily specific, but it gives you a level of abstraction above the folder that you showed earlier. It's essentially your portal, right? It's your web Clipchamp page where you see all the project that you have. And of course, you can do recently opened, shared, favorite, and so on and so forth, right? Here, you can create a blank project. So obviously, what you can expect in a roadmap is the ability to populate some videos here. That could be your corporate templates, right? That could be your EY, internal video, external video, HR onboarding, or whatever it might be that would be role-based. So expect some new stuff coming up. That page is fairly, empty at this point. It's really your landing page, but you'll see more.
That would be great. Yeah.
Then what I wanted to show you, so this is my internal tenant of Clipchamp, and I have, well, first of all, if I actually import a stock image, so you see, I don't have the little diamond because I'm premium, so I have this benefit. So I'm going to do that picture here. If I want to export, now I have 4K enabled, obviously, so you would expect that. But the one thing I have also visibly here on the interface is the brand kits. So that's the way it looks. Right now, imagine I'm a new user. I want to create a brand kit because, this is the first time I use Clipchamp in my tenants. So what it's going to ask me to do, right, browsing. Let's do it again. I want the demo effect at the end, but only to a certain extent. All right. All right, let's do that again. Let's try to refresh the page.
Sure.
That's the internal version. I guess that's at my own risk, I guess. Let's reopen the page.
So these brand kits, when you're creating and publishing them in a commercial tenant, is it an administrator who creates it, or can anybody make their own brand kit? How do we kind of lock down users that way?
Yeah, there's no notion of having an administrator, so to say. It's everybody who has the premium version can create, share, and use an existing brand kit.
Okay, so would you recommend then creating one, making it available to import for your users so that they've got like the right hex codes and stuff?
Exactly, that's what I was going to show you. I have, internet is problematic because I don't even open the app right now. So
sure.
So, okay, so let me try to show you that in, because that's also what I wanted to show you in maybe in the consumer version, just to switch gear as it's trying to load. So, and of course, now it's live on the other screen, but I'm not going to go back. Let me just show you Clipchamp Consumer. So, there you go. You see Clipchamp Consumer. So when you go on the home page of Clipchamp Consumer, you have all those templates that I mentioned, right? So it just to show you some inspiration of what's going to come to the enterprise version, where I have, the YouTube, Instagram, gaming, slideshows, birthday. And I can also populate the brand kits centrally here for my personal version. So you can add your logos, add your fonts, add your palettes, looking at the RGB, exactly that. And then when you go and create a new video, you have the brand kit showing up here. And there we go. So, and it populates straight from my interface where I have my set of logos. Somebody was asking, you can put own assets. I happen to have put only logos here of demos I did in the past. And you can create your different palettes. Look at that. I had actually an MVP palette. I probably did the demo. Here, it could be the John's palette, right? So, and when I create a text effect, so I think you mentioned that earlier. I'm going to add this text effect here. If I go in my text color, I have access to my different brand colors. The MVP one, the John one, palette 3, and so on and so forth.
It's nice that you can have multiple palettes like that, so you can have, like, if you're running a specific campaign or something, you've got the corporate palette, but then you've got, like, a pride palette or something like that, for specific campaigns that you could have.
Correct.
That's awesome.
And so let me go back now that it loaded to the Clipchamp Enterprise. So hopefully you guys follow me. So I have always this schizophrenia moving from one to the other. Yeah. we're going towards parity, but there is still some differences, as we mentioned throughout the last 2 hours. So I have my brand kit here. I'm going to do what you actually recommended. I'm a new employee at X, Y, and Z company. I want to import the brand kit, and somebody told me that, oh man, is it going to work? That's, I try again. Maybe not. So anyway, you can browse the brand kit in your SharePoint folder, import it, and suddenly everything will appear in your interface. So
so if you've got like a brand zone SharePoint site that your marketing owns, they could upload the brand kit export there.
correct.
And then new employees would be able to go to that SharePoint, import it, have all the logos, all the things that marketing wants them to use.
Exactly. And I think
Awesome.
somebody mentioned organization asset library, which is a SharePoint feature. We support that. So I won't go into details, and I haven't seen a lot of customers use that yet, but this is also something we're trying again, back to that consistency, make sure we leverage his existing functionalities. Your question about admin is a very good one, John. No, we don't have admin right now. So anybody could be a creator of a brand kit. In a multi-brand organization, you can have whatever team creates their brand kit. That could be seasonal. Maybe they want a brand kit for the holidays of Thanksgiving or whatever it might be, right? And switch back and forth. Today, you can only have one brand kit at the time. And so you need to switch between the one you imported and the one you created. Of course, we're going to make that brand kit evolve, and you would assume you would have access to multiple brand kit where you can switch back and forth, see all the recent one you actually had. So we're working on that, and of course that's going to be part of a brand kit V2 coming soon.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I think you're going to see organizational asset libraries get more popular in the world of Copilot, because Copilot, if you're in PowerPoint and you want to create a slide deck with Copilot, it can leverage those templates in the org asset library. So I think we're going to see a lot of companies get suddenly interested in the org asset library. So that will kind of help, create that desire to have a brand kit there as well, that we could kind of leverage. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because I don't like to give up on a demo, I tried again, and now it's working. Maybe internet issues. So you see, I did import. So I created a folder, brand kit for Clipchamp, and I'm going to browse. I have a few of them here. I'm going to click here. That's the one I did for a team. We have another file extension. That's why I wanted to show you this.
a .brand kit file.
Exactly. Very small, 3K kilobytes. I'm going to select it and import the brand kit. And magically, here we go. So this one is that simple, but I have potentially my custom fonts. And you can edit the brand kit by importing your own fonts right here. Support the main formats. Color palettes, similar to the consumer version. And last but not least, logos, where I can just add a logo very quickly. From here, I'm going to do whatever. I should be careful about what I'm uploading, but you get the idea, right? Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Thanks for taking us through that, because that's something that I think people they're interested in, but they don't have premium, and it's like, well, that's a value add to something like premium, but being able to see what you get when you make that jump, I think will help people a lot. That's cool.
Yeah. And for premium, for those of you who are admin of Microsoft 365, E3, and E5, you can find a SKU that's called Clipchamp Premium Add-on Trial, self-explanatory, and you'll be able to test the premium functionalities for a full month. You can do that for your 25 users in your tenant, so it's available now. In fact, it's been available since December 1st, so would love to have you in my reports, see new companies trying Clipchamp Premium, and give us some feedback.
Cool.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, what else, Andy? Do you think that's a good place to land it?
So
on kind of the premium value add?
Yeah, the premium value add is great. I know there were a number of questions, kind of consumer versus enterprise along the way. For those of you that joined in with us live, we did post a link to that in the chat earlier. I'm going to just post it again to make sure everybody gets it. It's a really great feature comparison put together by the team at Clipchamp. I've also put that out on social media and a couple of different channels. If you're trying to figure out like what do you get if you have like Clipchamp, personal versus like enterprise, or if you're enterprise standard versus like enterprise premium, that's a really great breakdown of that. So again, that's in here for anybody that's joined live. It's in social media. We'll put it underneath the video when this is posted back to YouTube as well. So that's
a good point from Dwayne as well, is it's not available on EDU yet. Dwayne's at Microsoft. He works a lot with EDU customers.
Not yet, but we're working on it. I can't announce anything now, but stay tuned. Of course, we care about that audience deeply, and we're working on it. And I saw a question as well on the privacy on those projects. So the beauty of it is really respect whatever you have defined for SharePoint and OneDrive, right? So access and everything is really defined by this, by your organizational library, the way you do that, right? So we don't want to mess with that.
Yeah, Pedro, if you're creating your Clipchamp in your OneDrive, everything in your OneDrive, it's private unless you choose to share that out. So, it's a nice, safe place to work on things. You've always got the share button to pull in colleagues. But yeah, especially starting out from your OneDrive, that's private. If you're starting out from a Microsoft team or a SharePoint, it's going to respect the access levels of that SharePoint or that Microsoft team.
Yeah. And I would like maybe also to finish with, to maybe take a step back. I think that was one of the most exhaustive deep dive demo I participated in. So thank you, John and Andy, a lot. But at the end of the day, it's really to unlock that, ability to communicate through video. We have a bunch of slides showing how powerful videos and a picture is worth 1,000 words and all those things. We know that video in principle is more powerful than anything else, right? But I would encourage to change the behaviors of the users, the folks working with you, and think about creating a video instead of creating a PowerPoint deck, instead of creating a Word document with bullet points or sending an email. And in fact, talking about sending an email, somebody mentioned, let's forget about, attachment. And it's true, like, it never works to attach a video file to an email. I mean, like it's big file and everything. Yeah. So one of the things I love particularly is the fact that our friends at Stream, and I know you had Mark recently on this show, shipped what we call unfurling, right? So you can play the video where you put the link, and one of the great scenarios in Outlook. So think about it this way: you create this quick video using a subset of those features that we showed today, and try to push yourself to maybe take less than 30 minutes to create a video, so that you don't have that, it took me a while last time. No, just make it simple. Use a few of those things. You don't need to do green screen. You don't need to do complicated things every time. And just drop the Stream link in an email and send it to your recipient. And those people will not even have to open Stream. They'll just be able to play the video into Outlook, from Outlook, sorry. So I think that's workflow, creating with compliant, safe asset in OneDrive, exporting to Stream with one simple workflow, and then sending that to people into an Outlook message, or of course a team message, right? It's pretty powerful in my opinion.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really looking forward to that native playback in Outlook. That's going to be really big. A lot of communicators have come to me in our new Stream world asking like, hey, I always have to like take a screenshot of the thumbnail and then put that with it links out to the video, whenever they can play it in the Outlook email. Yeah, my brand and marketing team is going to be very happy. So
that's great.
Cool stuff. Okay, so at the end, is there any place where people can find you, follow you, or Clipchamp, the brand?
Yeah, of course. So look, we have, first of all, we have a great YouTube channel with a lot of tutorials. So there are, if you want to train yourself, go beyond what we did today. There's a lot of blog posts that we've been publishing over the years. Many of them are more specifically designed to cover our consumer product. That said, my colleague Toby, who might listen in, is working hard on transforming a lot of those resources on our support website for the enterprise version as well, and show the difference, right? So we'll put the link, of course, but there's a lot of resources. And other than this, I can as well share my email if you have some feedback to share to the product groups, I would use that. You can also suggest things in the product. So I would recommend you use that functionality, of course.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, this was a deep dive. I think it was really good. We used every bit of the 2 hours, and there's so much more to play with Clipchamp. I think that now is very much the time to to get into this, start using it, advocate it for your users. It's a modern way to communicate, and now we've got these tools that were so much harder to get to and so much shadow IT. Now you've got, a native place that respects all of your governance and everything. Those are fantastic. So
yeah, and this is what we realized in conversation after the acquisition and talking to a lot of IT leaders and business organization, is that they had a aha moment that they never standardized on a simple tool that would be available to everyone, right? So that's kind of our goal, to become that tool. And obviously now you actually need a little bit of, it says no training requires. That's kind of the we go by. If you understand PowerPoint, you'll understand Clipchamp. You'll have to just connect with the idea of a timeline if you've never done video, but that should be straightforward. And that's why we always, as a product team, try to figure out, is it worth adding that feature, or is it something that's really caters to the 1% and we don't want to complicate the product for that? Because of course, you guys, myself, sometimes I'm like, I'd love to have that because I've seen that in a more complex pro tool, but we're trying to keep it to our DNA. The one thing though I want to mention, maybe as a closing remark, is that you would imagine a lot. I mean, I'm glad you showed the demo using the Bing little assistant on the side. I mean, it's actually super cool. I would probably do that myself, but it's kind of a waiting until we have a full integration of that into Clipchamp, right? I mean, you could imagine a lot of AI functionalities. What if we could remove the background noise? What if we could, remove the and the that you have in a presentation when you record yourself, right? So, obviously, without disclosing everything in our roadmap, you could maybe guess, where we're going to go, and making that product even more AI rich. And again, trying to figure out what's really useful, what's gimmicky, and how we prioritize those functionalities. So stay tuned. You can go on the Microsoft roadmap. We'll publish those new things. Some of them will be part of the standard version of Clipchamp. Some will be part of premiums. We'll always have this kind of duality. But stay tuned. And I would say another place to go is to check the Microsoft roadmap. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll make sure that we get all of those links out. Thank you for some of the Easter eggs that you dropped along the way. Some of the great knowledge as well. This one has been super, super fun, but we'll make sure we follow up with any other links that anybody needs. And with that, I think that's a knockout. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on 365 Deep Dive, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, John. Bye-bye.